Hey, Amy,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I'm Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word about the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button, give us the thumbs up, leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. Amy, ¿cómo estás?
I think you made Jose Ayala really happy with your little squeak.
Okay, I'm not trying to make the squeak a part of the show. Honestly, I don't know what's happening here, ladies.
Stop trying to make squeak happen.
Okay, so here's the thing. I am in this new studio setup. I am right by the air conditioning vent. And obviously, I don't know what's going on this summer, but my allergies are going berserk. So I'm trying to save my voice. And in an attempt to save my voice, I end up squeaking. So I don't know what's going on here, but I have my waters. So I'm hopefully my voice will hold up during this. But yeah, that's for
So
you,
you're
Jose Ayala.
ready. You're ready to play our hydration game, is what I'm hearing.
Well, I'm also prepared for that as well. Amy, before we get into a lot of Dodger talk, there's a lot to talk about on this episode. And before we even get into the comments, because we got a lot of comments on in the comment corner on our last episode. How was your weekend, Amy?
It was busy with baseball. I pretty much lived at the stadium this weekend, and once during the week, which I never get to do as covering the team, which was pretty cool.
And we're going to get to hear about all of that as we do that. Before, though, point of privilege here, Amy, I just want to share with you something that happened to me. And I'm just curious if this has ever happened to you. So last night, I was at my beloved Frida Cinema watching the Brian De Palma masterpiece Blowout, which is one of my favorite Brian De Palma movies. And as I'm sitting there in the theater, I noticed this woman walked into the movie theater with a dog. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh, this dog is going to bark throughout the whole movie. I was already getting agitated, right? The movie ends and I'm watching the credits and I notice the woman walk past me with the dog. And I realized I did not hear the dog bark at all throughout the whole movie. He didn't even whimper. So, Amy, I came to two conclusions. One, service animals are very impressive and are fantastic creatures. Two, this dog was either a cinephile or a huge Brian De Palma fan and decided that he was just going to keep quiet the whole time. Amy, have you ever experienced seeing a service animal in a movie theater?
I don't think so. No.
I was very impressed by that. And so kudos to service animals for doing what you do. Just wanted to share that. I want to put that out there to our audience. If you guys have ever experienced a service animal in a movie theater, please leave in the comments below. I'd love to know what your experience was like. Amy, any comments from the comment corner that you want to go ahead and address?
I actually wanted to mention that while I was at the stadium this weekend, I got to meet one of our international listeners. So Sal is visiting us from Australia for the next couple of months. So she'll be in and out of Dodger Stadium. And I got to meet her, and she was just lovely. So it was just getting to. I love getting to meet our listeners when they do make it to the stadium. It's great. If I have some stickers on me, I'll always pass them out. But it's always nice to get to interact with the people on the other side of the screen.
And my apologies to you, Sal. I can't help myself, but put another shrimp on the barbie. And
Oh
that's
gosh.
we give it's a shout out to Dumb and Dumber. I mean, come
Oh,
on.
oh, I'm aware. I love that movie. Highly quotable movie, but oh.
Well, I'm glad that you get to meet Sal. And look, guys, I think it's always better that you guys who watch the show, you guys who listen to the show, that you guys meet Amy and you don't meet me, because you're meeting my better half on the show. It leaves a much better impression. Everybody loves Amy. Everybody doesn't feel the same way about the Prince of Darkness, but that's what makes this show work, right, Amy? It's
Oh, the
it's a little give and take.
self-deprecation.
It's a little give and take. It's a little him and her right there.
And it doesn't hurt that I practically live at the stadium, so I'm usually there.
Well, that's great. And Sal, we can't thank you enough for your support of the show. You've been very complimentary to us on social media, so thank you very much, Sal. And I'm glad you got to meet Amie. So,
As far as like comments, just kind of stuff that we talked about. I think we had already addressed some of the outfield stuff. So I think people were asking about that. So we did cover that in the last episode. People just mentioning the lead, like we brought up, the Dodgers were ahead by quite a few. I think right now, before the game started, they're up 7 games over both San Diego and the Giants. And somebody brought up that Kershaw was dealing on Thursday. They were bummed that he didn't have a longer outing preceding that following start on Wednesday, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail. But when we were there in the pregame scrum on Wednesday, Dave Roberts mentioned that it wasn't really planned to pull him early from that Thursday game, but they also, because it was Colorado, they didn't want to do anything to like his mechanics, but also like not selfishly, like they didn't pull him out just because he had the milestone coming up and they wanted to do it at home. But it did factor in a little bit where it was like, well, we don't want to hurt him, but also like if he was to do it at home, let's save an inning. So
I do want to. So, Cactus Traveler, I think we're going to get into more of this as the show progresses. But with your comment now, in terms of the Dodgers having a comfortable lead, is it okay to rest Federico and Teo and Mookie? Well, I think when we go through our updates, Cactus Traveler, I think you're going to see. As much as I liked your idea of resting, in particular Federico, I don't know if the Dodgers have that luxury of resting anymore. Even though they have I think a comfortable lead. Before Houston came in this weekend, I really thought, okay, this is where they're going to start to really separate themselves. I think when you get a double-digit lead in the division, that's when you really start to feel comfortable. Single digits, you're still kind of anything can happen. We still have another whole half of baseball left in the season. And Simply Brandy, a lot of your points that you bring up in your comment, we're going to address as we go through the show. So again, I can't thank you guys enough for engaging with us on the YouTube channel. I love it. I love to hear your thoughts, whether you agree with us or not, or any ideas that you have. You give us a lot of stuff to talk about, so keep it coming. All right, Amie, you ready? You ready to do this? You ready to talk some Dodger baseball?
I mean, I was born ready.
Nice. Well played. And a pleasant good evening to you, wherever you may be. Amie, let's start with some updates.
Sure. Oh my gosh. Should we start with some updates? Maybe some updates?
Yeah. We start with some updates because, in particular, today, at the time we are recording this is Monday. This is right before the Dodgers are going to play against the Cerveceros in Milwaukee. We got a lot of news today. So, Amie, catch us up on everything.
Okay, so there were a lot of just transactions, like as we're so used to seeing with the Dodgers. We've recalled players, we've signed players, we've moved them around. So Will Klein has come up and down. Michael Kopech, as we saw, went on the 15-day IL, retroactive to June 28th with right knee inflammation. We claimed somebody off of waivers. So first baseman CJ Alexander, we took him off waivers from the Yankees, and he's part of one of those updates today. He just got DFA'd today. So we didn't even really see any time with him.
In the words of the great philosopher Ferris Bueller, life comes at you fast. So.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much. We also recalled left fielder Esteuri Ruiz, who we got to see a couple times over the weekend, and he got his first start as well. And as we saw, we released Luis Garcia, and the Nats picked him up, which I think they picked up, wasn't it Ryan Lutos? So they're taking our pitching cast-offs. They're
Not
all
only
ending
that,
up.
have you seen how many Garcias are on the Nationals team?
I
think the Nationals could probably field an all Garcia team with this pickup. But I digress. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, all right. Obviously brought up players, optioned them. So Noah got optioned, Noah Davis. We recalled Jack Little. He pitched. We recalled Emmett Sheehan. We optioned Jack Little. So just lots of moves to try to keep those bullpen arms fresh. We did also get some updates from Dave Roberts throughout the weekend, and then obviously into today, we're seeing social media. So Blake Snell on Saturday threw 2 innings in a simulated bullpen. Faced batters. Dave Roberts said he looked good. He's going to have possibly a late rehab start next week. So he's going to stay back from Milwaukee and then hopefully throw another pen with about 2 innings. But basically the ball came out well. He used his entire pitch mix. His delivery looked clean and sharp. So he's almost ready to go out. And then Blake Trinan also threw an inning. And so they're hoping sometime after the All-Star break, we might see them. And then, like I said, we saw Esteuri start on Sunday. Shohei had a goal of pitching 2 innings. I believe that was Saturday. All the days are blending together. He wasn't going to pitch any more than 40 pitches. We saw the 31. And then we saw Sheehan get called up. He pitched on Sunday. And then what we heard this weekend was that Tyler Glasnow was going to get a slot sometime in the next 2 series. And then as of today, we've heard he will be pitching on Wednesday. So barring anything else happening. And then we've also got some injuries. I'm sure everybody is well aware, has seen the multiple slow motion, fast motion, speeded up, slowed down clips of Max Muncy getting injured. So he has that left knee deep bone bruise. Saturday, Teoscar fouled a pitch off of the top of his foot. He went in for scans. They were negative, but he's still sore. So probably not an IL stint, but they're going to be probably keeping him off of his feet. Same thing with Tommy Edman. He fractured his pinky toe. No IL stint. It's just managing the pain similar to Mookie. And then Kike has apparently been in pain dating back to the Cleveland series. It's his left elbow, inside and outside, so there's no defensive impact, but his swing is compromised. So as we saw today, he is headed to the IL, and he had a cortisone injection. So we shall see how that goes.
And the rumor is Glasnow is going to pitch in the Milwaukee series. Was any of that confirmed?
That's what I just said on Wednesday, this Wednesday.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. If
I missed that. I missed that part. I know you mentioned that he was.
So within the next 2 series, and then they did confirm today
Okay.
it will be he will have the Wednesday start.
All right, that's what I'm talking. I heard you say the next 2 series, and that's why I was like,
and then
wait.
He's set to start on Wednesday.
Okay,
And then we did also recall James Outman, which don't be surprised. He's also wearing glasses now. He hasn't done it in a game yet, but we should see that shortly. And then we've also got a couple moves as of today, in addition to Outman, where we selected the contract of right-handed pitcher. It's either Julian or Julian Fernandez. We optioned Justin Robleski, as we saw Kike went to the IL, and then we DFA'd, like we mentioned earlier, CJ Alexander.
A couple of things from that. It appears that everyone on the Dodgers is blind now that Outman is wearing glasses, and
contact lenses, people.
I'm rooting for James Outman because he's a fellow member of the Stalloner's Club. So I hope it finally happens for him. Not just because if he does well, it'll help the Dodgers, but maybe he can be trade bait and he can go somewhere where he can actually get playing time, because I think James Outman is in that really tough position where a lot of people used to use the term 4A. It seems like James Outman might be a 4A player where he might be too good for AAA, but he's just not good enough to stay up at the major league level.
Or just not getting enough reps with such a talented team. Like, it's really hard to see what he has when you're surrounded by everybody else, and you need, the standard is up here for the Dodgers, where maybe everybody else in Major League Baseball is kind of here. If you can't sustain with everybody else.
Well, I mean, the fact that you bring up that there's just no room for these players. There's another guy down in AAA right now that I feel like the Dodgers just cut him, let him go somewhere else because he's getting older, and that's Ryan Ward. Mm-hmm. Ryan Ward seems to be having a really good season down in Oklahoma City, but there's no way that Ryan Ward is going to come out there. Now, I know probably the Dodgers probably want to hold on to him for insurance, especially with the way injuries are just hitting them right now. But that poor guy has been in AAA for a really long time. you want to see these guys get an opportunity. And if they're never going to get an opportunity, I think it's only fair for the organization to go ahead and move forward. But
And
Amie,
that might be the case. Maybe we do see him in the next couple of games, even just with the way that, if you are resting Tommy Edman, Teoscar, they're not headed to the IL as of now, but they're also not playing in a lot of games. So
well, I think it's tough because now is the time that you could probably showcase them, because in a week or so we're going to start that mind-numbing trade talk. So now would be a good time to maybe showcase some players. But then if he comes up and he sucks, then that's going to hurt the trade value. So it is a really tough. Amie, the other thing I wanted to ask you, because this was asked to me by Fernando the minute he saw that Kike got hurt. Fernando wrote to me and said, Juan, is there any chance that Kike's elbow got hurt pitching? And I'm just like, well, here's the deal, Fernando. We're going to get Amy's perspective on this because she's the expert on all things Kike. As Amie said in that update, it doesn't bother him defensively. It's only bothering him when he swings the bat. If it doesn't bother him defensively and he can make those throws, then I'm going to assume that this injury was not related to him pitching.
But he throws right, and it's his left elbow.
So there we go. Wow, good catch there. All right. So what are your thoughts? That when Fernando says, "Hey, could this injury?" But it's not his throwing arm.
I was kind of going down the same rabbit hole that Fernando did, because I was like, is this what we're seeing from position players pitching? And then when I saw that it's his left elbow, I was like, oh, he doesn't throw with that arm. So, I mean, unless it's how he's holding his glove while he's pitching, like, I don't think that's the case. So I think not in this case.
But I think it explains a lot with his struggles offensively. I mean, because
100%, because he's not hitting especially where we thought he would be with how he's been producing, since the start of the year. It's not been where everybody wants to see it, but he still is pretty dependable. And lately it's been kind of hit or miss.
I mean, if he's been dealing with this for a month, and like I said, offensively, his numbers have just not been there. He has not been hitting left-handed pitching. If it's bothering him when he's hitting, maybe that is an explanation. I just don't think you can easily dismiss injuries and the impact that they have on performance, which leads me to, you mentioned Teoscar Hernandez.
Well, before we jump into Theo, I think it's also worth mentioning too how brutal this game is, because it was said in a lot of the posts on social media that Dave Roberts, that he just told the team basically that he's been dealing with this. So he's kept it to himself. And that's where we're all discussing all of these moves. Should we move so-and-so to the outfield? Should we move them over to left field, to right field? It is so competitive, especially on the Dodgers, but in baseball in general, that is that part of the reason why he didn't speak up sooner. Just, as we're talking about, what do we do with Conforto? Do we give Kike more playing time? Do you not want to say anything so that you don't lose your opportunities, because baseball is so competitive and the next person up, we don't know how long they're going to stay up. They could keep that spot, or, maybe you get to come back once you're healed.
I think there's definitely truth to that, especially in the fact that Kike's on a 1-year deal, and so I feel like he is playing for next year. He's playing for his next contract, and so he needs to play and he needs to be able to put up numbers. So I'm sure, and a lot of these players, I think, feel that they can play through things. But to me, Teo has not looked right for a while now. Dave Roberts, before what happened to him this weekend, had said that he was healthy and that he was going to be the Dodgers' everyday right fielder. But again, this week we saw some defensive lapses from Theo, and he just does not look right. So that's why, for me, you automatically, I think you have to, when a player is not performing, I think the first thing you need to consider is, are they healthy? And are they doing what you just described right now, Amie, where they're pulling a Kike, where they're trying to play through it, because they know, especially with this team, you could get Wally pipped very easily. You go down, there could be somebody else who's going to take your number, and you may not get your position back. I
Mhm.
know Dale's a different story. He's a bigger name. He's got a 3-year deal, but I'm sure these players are thinking these things. But man, Dale,
And you also just want to push through because you want to be a part of this. Like we've seen Tony Gonsolin do it. We've seen even Clayton Kershaw talk about it. These people want to contribute. So it's like, how long can I play through the pain? Is it really that bad? Versus how much damage am I potentially doing? Like there's so many factors that go into this.
you just mentioned a name that is completely forgotten, and that's Tony Gonsolin. I am under the impression he's not coming back this year. But have you even gotten any update? Has anybody brought him up when you've been at the stadium? Any of the beat
I
writers?
I haven't heard anything. I don't have any notes on him. Mm-mm.
Yeah. So, like, again, for me, I get it, guys, when you guys are making comments about, resting certain guys. Well, look, this is what happens, right? What's the saying? You make plans and then somebody laughs. There was a stretch where maybe, okay, we could maybe afford to give some of these people. And now they just got hit really, really hard because, look, the drink,
Oh,
the
oh.
the trade deadline is coming very, very quickly. We still have the same question in terms of what are the Dodgers going to do with Michael Conforto?
Well, you
Now,
need him now.
they've been saying like the Max Muncy injury really sucked. It absolutely sucked for him because he was hitting really, really well. He was offensively, he had turned around his season. And this is, for me, I understand now why this guy was contemplating retiring in the offseason. These injuries just have to be so demoralizing, especially after you've turned your season around, you're heading in the right direction, and for you to get that injury. So, and the Dodgers have come out, and I don't know whether you can believe this or not because you don't want to play your hand, especially with the trade deadline coming, but it said this does not change their plans. They're not going to go get a third baseman just because of the Max Muncy injury. But if I know it said 6 weeks with Max Muncy, we hope that's the case. But now you really got to start thinking. Okay, the question mark was, what are they going to do with Conforto? Are they sticking with Conforto because Conforto, I think, is having a very similar season to what Hayward did last year,
Mhm.
and they ended up cutting bait on Hayward pretty late in the season, but they cut bait. Now, are the Dodgers willing to do that? I think the other issue, and we're going to get into this more as we get closer to the trade deadline, there's still a lot of teams that are in the wild card race. And because there are so many teams that are in the wild card race, there's not that going to be that many players available for a trade because these teams think they still have a chance to make the playoffs. And as we've seen in past years, it's get in and who knows what can happen. So again, the Dodgers may not have a choice as much as I know Brandy really is like, when she says, Conforto is killing us. Let's go ahead. He's not up to a par and he's a real rally killer. The Dodgers may not have a choice. They may need to keep Conforto the whole season because they love that left-handed bat. He is showing some signs.
Like he
So
did hit a couple. I think he hit at least a home run. He drove some runs in this weekend. So I mean, we're seeing signs of life, which is better than what we saw at the beginning of the season, which at this point, I think even Rick Monday had said something on the broadcast of, what we already say on this show. They're not all going to be hitting at the same time. Like some of these guys are just they're going to pass the torch and he's starting to find it. They may be, this may be where they're at just because of the situation that they're in, or, maybe they keep him because, like you said, the market doesn't have a lot of options out there. And do you want somebody who's a little bit more veteran? He's been in, the league for a long time versus we're also seeing Esteuri, who's come up, but he's very green. So while he's making some great plays, there's also stuff that still does need to be fine tuned. Do you want that more veteran presence where maybe they both end up kind of batting pretty similarly because of the struggles that they're going with? It's six of one, half dozen of the other.
And that's why the Muncy injury, I think, sucks even more because of what you just said. Not everybody is going to be hitting at the same time. I mean, this
And they
Mookie,
were going to throw Tommy Edman at third base to give Hae-Sung Kim more playing time, which I was like, I mean, you definitely want Tommy's bat in there. But at the same time, like, Kike is pretty, like, we saw some pretty stellar plays from Kike at third before the injury, obviously, where it's like, I feel like you could shuffle the outfield a little bit more. again, pre-injuries, but it was just an interesting move to put Edman at third base when he hasn't really played that. I think they said in like 5 years.
Well, that's the situation that they're in, right?
Well, and not so much now because he's fractured his pinky toe. So
Well, but again, it's like, what are you going to do? Because losing Muncie's bat is huge because
mhm.
Federico was going through it. Federico was starting to show some signs. Hopefully, he's coming out of that slump. But yeah, I mean, I know Mookie had some nice moments. So you're hoping that maybe those are signs that he's coming out of, maybe a down season for him. But at this point, you got Miguel Rojas at third base now that Kike has gone down. And then, so you don't have an option. You're going to have to give Tommy Edmonds some time at third base. For those of you that have been preaching, begging for Hae-Sung Kim to get more playing time, well, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. Hae-Sung Kim is going to get more playing time because there is no choice. They have to go ahead and do this. So, look, I'm glad that it's coming around the All-Star break. It's buying some time maybe for some of these guys to get healthy. But I am very curious as to how long this injury stretch lasts because it's a real tough position that the Dodgers are in. Do you think, okay, and we're going to get into this when we talk about the Houston series and what happened with the Astros, but this is the tough situation in the Dodgers front office. Is it, do we go and get somebody in this trade deadline? Or all these guys that are hurt and they come back, they're in a sense, basically, it's almost like getting a trade, getting these guys all coming back from injury. Amie, do you wanna start talking about the White Sox series, or do you have anything else you want to comment on regarding the updates?
No, I mean, it was a mouthful of updates. So yeah, let's jump into the White Sox series.
Before we go into the White Sox series, I will say this: I am kind of surprised.
What did you just ask me?
I'm sorry. It just like lightning just went into my head right now. I am a little surprised that they're going with Glass now on Wednesday. Just because he only had 2 starts down in the minor league, 2 rehab starts. I thought maybe they would give him one more, but maybe they wanted him.
Maybe it's to assess him and then get him some rest for the All-Star break. Who knows?
Yeah, and that's a good point. Use the All-Star break for some more recovery time. So I think
hey,
that's fair.
This is what we saw. Let's work on this. Come back and maybe we'll see what happens.
I think that's fair. I just thought maybe they'd give him one more start to let him build, and then after the All-Star break, it definitely explains why Bluesky went down. Look, we'll get into his performance against the Astros, but okay, let's seriously this time. Let's talk about Las Medias Blancas. So the Dodgers started off the homestand fantastic. They swept the White Sox, which is what everybody expected them to do. They beat this team that is just really struggling playing baseball. But Amie, for me, this whole White Sox series, really the most important thing to me is what happened with Clayton Kershaw. So do you want to talk about any other aspects of the White Sox series? Because I want to spend some time here on Clayton Kershaw getting to the 3,000 strikeout.
No, I guess what I would say preceding that, because everybody's like, it's the White Sox, it's the White Sox. But they like you like to say from Dontrell, like they drive nice cars too. They may not have the cohesion and the like as sharp as the Dodgers, but I mean they made it very tough for Kershaw on Wednesday. So everybody was like, I don't know who you talked to, but in my circle, it was like, well, what inning do you think he's going to do it? And some people, oh, he's going to do it in the first inning. He might even have an immaculate inning. Oh, he'll do it by the second inning. Oh, definitely by the third. And as those innings kind of went on, it was like, oh, are we going to see it tonight? And the White Sox kind of had his number.
Look, they came out there swinging. I will say this, Amie. I don't think I've ever seen like and I know he talked about this at the end of the game, and you were there, so I want to spend some time on your experience at that game in a press capacity. But I will say this. He mentioned it in the post-game interview, but it definitely looked like he was trying to strike everybody out. And he was getting 2 strikes on everybody, and he wasn't putting
they said there was like 15 like 2-strike counts or something like that. I didn't count it, but I think Dave Roberts said that after the fact. But he even said beforehand in the pregame, he's like, there's gonna be that urge or that tendency to want to really go after it, and I think that's literally what we saw.
He was. I mean, he was literally. I hadn't seen that from him. And so, look, I'm glad he did it. I think it's crazy that he did it with the very last batter, 100 pitches, which he hadn't done in 2 years. I'm
In
so
the
glad that he
6th
did do
inning,
it.
like
I'm glad that he was able to do it at home because I think it would have sucked if he did it in Milwaukee. I think it was great that he got his 2000 strikeout here at Dodger Stadium. I do think it was great that he got the 3000 here at Dodger Stadium. Amie, how was it that day before? And also, I just want to shout out. Some of you guys may have heard this, but if you watch the post game on Sportsnet LA, the day that Kershaw got the 3K, you may have heard my partner asking him a question. So the superstar was on television on Spectrum Sportsnet LA talking to the man of the hour. Amie, walk us through that day. What did you feel going into the stadium? How was the vibe? Let us know.
it was like I'm getting chills just thinking about it because like everybody, fans, media, like everybody could feel it when, before the game we're in the clubhouse. You have Kershaw walk in and everybody's just like, it's like, look away, like give him a space, kind of like, you don't want to impact anything with his day. And then as the game got underway, like we talked to Dave Roberts beforehand, and the majority of the pregame scrum was really focused on Clayton Kershaw. What did Doc think? And, how has he seen him grow over the years? And then as Kershaw comes out and starts to go through each of those innings, and, everybody I talked to, I was out in the stadium. We had some of our listeners, Jessica and Philip, out there. So like talking to them, like, when do you guys think he's going to do it? So the stadium had like a different buzz. Like everybody's usually excited to be there, but it was very focused on, we know what we're here for. And I will say it was kind of a bummer because it was Yoshinobu Yamamoto bobblehead night, and I feel like it kind of got overshadowed a little bit by that. But everybody was still happy to. I know you don't like toys, but everybody
Wait,
was.
what got overshadowed? Yamamoto's bobblehead or Kershaw's night for 3K?
Yoshinobu's bobblehead night. Like I don't think like they talked about it and everybody had their bobbleheads, but I don't think everybody was as focused on like, yay, it's his bobblehead as we were like anticipating.
I'm perfectly fine with that, honestly. And like you said,
I
it's
know you don't
because I'm
like
a grown ass
toys.
man and I don't like toys.
Well, everybody else who got theirs was happy. So, just I think it was just different around the stadium. Like I went and I got my baseball passport. I had to go get my little stamp just in case, because I'm a nerd and that's my little souvenir that I like to get. And as the game got underway, the crowd was like with him the whole time. So like he would get into a 2-strike count and you'd hear everybody cheering and everybody would like try to like kind of hype him up. And then it's like that involuntary, like they either popped it up or, something happened and it was audible across the stadium. So it's like the crowd kind of moved in ebbs and flows with him. And then he finally got that first strikeout in the third, but you saw his pitch count really starting to climb. Then he gets the second one in the 5th inning, and you're like, oh my God, is he going to do it, or is he going to do this one on the road? Is Doc going to let him go out? And we could see him pacing in the dugout between that 5th and 6th inning, and then Doc sent him out. And as we all saw, like it was just like, oh my God, is he going to do it? You see some of the memes online, like it cost him, Max Muncy to get it because that caught stealing was the second out of the inning, and then he struck out Vinny Capra looking, who incidentally got released 2 days later. Which is
Well,
such a bummer.
what I thought really was interesting was in his post game comments how he made that comment about he didn't understand why the guy was stealing at that time. Like he really went out of his way, and it was just like I don't know if I agree with that with Kershaw in the sense it was like, dude, they're trying to win a baseball game. I get it; they're the Medias Blancas,
Yeah,
but this
but they
whole
were
idea.
already they already had 4. So like I kind of get what he was saying, like the urgency of like, you really trying to get over that quick? I don't know.
No, I disagree with him there. They ended up losing that game 5-4. So maybe if the White Sox would have scored more runs, if that in particular that run would have made a difference. So
That's a baseball.
I thought it was really odd that he really called that out there, where it's just like, so Mr. Baseball over here is going to call out a team for being aggressive and for trying to win a game. I
Well,
found that weird.
he disagrees with you. So
Yeah, he
you all
disagrees with
get
me
your
on a lot of
opinions.
things. Yeah, we disagree on a lot of things.
But we saw that count getting up there, and the fact that, like you said, he did it on the 100th pitch. It was his last batter, and then they paused the game. Like, I think I have 4 to 5 minutes of just recording of him coming in, everybody hugging him making it down the line, like in the dugout, hugging everybody there, coming out for like more curtain calls. It just it felt like we were on that journey with him. And so it was really great. Like, you could feel it. It was palpable in the press box. You could see it with the stands. Like, everybody was up on their feet when it happened. And it's one of those history making moments, whether you're watching it at home and you're experiencing it with family or by yourself. Like, everybody was along that journey with him.
Yeah, and were you there? I know you were interviewing him, so I don't know if you got a chance to see this in the post game. But they dug out the rubber from that
Mm-hmm.
game, and that's something I had never seen before. And then I never realized how heavy the rubber was, because when Kershaw was carrying it, he made it see exactly. He made it seem like it was huge. So I I
And
I,
he
I
was
don't.
really happy in the post game too. Like, that was the thing. Like, we were all kind of like, "Oh gosh, I hope he doesn't hit this milestone and then we lose the game. Like, it would be so much better if we won." And he just came in and you could tell he was happy to just have it behind him, and he said as much multiple times, but it was just, you could see how happy he was. Like, it's not like it's something that people do every day. The fact that he's only the 20th pitcher to do it, and the third, I believe, with the same team, like, that's a big milestone. We had the 50-50 with Shohei last year. You've got 3,000 with Kershaw this year. It's a very small club.
I had that same. I was wondering the same thing, Amy, was because I've always referred to him as a red ass. It's part of the competitor in him. He's never satisfied, and that's, I think, what drives him. This is why he's as good as he is. There was a part of me that wondered, was he going to be able to enjoy that accomplishment? And especially, I think it helped that they came back to win the game. I think if they would have lost that game, because I had told my daughter when we were waiting for the post game interview, I was like, "Watch, she's going to sit there and say how much he sucked tonight," and instead of really enjoying this very rare, like you mentioned, only 20 people have done this, and so it was nice to kind of see him. I think enjoy it in the most way that he could
In a
allow himself.
in a
Yeah,
Kershaw
exactly,
way. Well, it's almost
exactly.
like you make self-deprecating comments. Even just, you did it at the beginning of the show, like, "Oh, they get to meet me and not you," or whatever. But, like, I think we all do that to a certain extent. And so he did wave off some of the comments, like, "Oh, but I didn't pitch as well as I would have liked to." But he did it with a smile on his face, versus the opposite of being frustrated with himself, or like we've seen, like Dustin May or other people. When you're in that moment and you feel that frustration, like, it carries through when you're having a lot of those post game kind of interviews. And this one, he, for the most part, he was just happy.
I think it was also great that Dave Roberts let him do it,
Hmm.
because if it was any other game, he would have been gone after the fifth inning.
Hmm.
The fact that and Robert said the sixth was definitely going to be his last inning, but the fact that he even let him go back out there for the sixth inning, it was clear that Roberts won. I think everybody on the team was rooting for him. They all wanted this for Kershaw, but you saw Roberts's reaction when he finally got it. He looked like he had just won the World Series. So I think it's great that Roberts. Yeah, this is why he has the reputation of being a player's manager, right? Is in moments like this, and I think probably Federico Freeman would have killed Roberts if he wouldn't have let him come out there for the six. I mean, you were at the stadium. The ovation, it seemed we could hear it on TV, but how loud was that ovation when he came out of the dugout in the sixth inning?
It was loud, and I think that was probably the hardest part about being there. Like, we wear two hats when we're a fan and we're media, and when like being in the press box is it's such an honor to be there. But one of the downsides as also being a fan is like you cannot cheer. You're unbiased. You're media, so it was just like yes, like tiny hurrah. But like the crowd basically took care of it for everybody else, and you just had that polite happiness for him. But when he went back out on the field, it felt like the whole stadium was electric. And and we saw that. And Dave Roberts even said before the game, and he said this before with like Aaron Judge on the field, etc., he is a fan first, he's also a manager, but like he loves the game of baseball. And he said it about Shohei Ohtani. He said it on Wednesday that he was really excited to see if Clayton did do it, what that would entail. And I actually got a question in with him during the post game about that too. And like it was a really great moment for him just to be able to see somebody that he'd been around for the last 10 years, but also just for the game of baseball, what Clayton Kershaw was able to do that night.
This is another feather in this guy's hat. And again, you really run out of adjectives when talking about Clayton Kershaw. What more can you say about this guy? He really has accomplished everything. I know the haters will come in and talk about his postseason performance, but I mean, with this guy, if you look at his career, he really has accomplished everything. Um, I will say this: as much as we give him his flowers, I do want to just mention this about the all-time strikeout leader, the guy who holds the record. Like Clayton Kershaw got 3,000 strikeouts, which is a huge accomplishment. To put things in perspective, guys, he's 2,700 strikeouts behind the all-time strikeout leader. Nolan Ryan is a guy for me who never really got the credit he deserved as a pitcher. And this is when people will come at me and go, Juan, what are you talking about? That's insane. Nolan Ryan is a Hall of Famer. Yes, Nolan Ryan is a Hall of Famer. He is the all-time strikeout leader. He has 7 no-hitters. But yet, when you talk about the greatest pitchers of all time, Nolan Ryan is further down the list. And all I'm saying is maybe Nolan Ryan should be a little further up the list. This is before your time, Amie, because you're really young. But there used to be this
You're
sports
like
writer.
2 years older than me.
There's this sports writer. He was a sports writer in Philadelphia, Bill Conlon. And it drove me insane. He used to be on this show on ESPN called The Sports Reporters. And they had asked him, this was before Nolan Ryan went into the Hall of Fame, and why Nolan Ryan wasn't a first ballot Hall of Famer. And he said, well, because if it was Game 7 of the World Series, he wouldn't want Nolan Ryan on the mound. And as a kid, I'm listening to Bill Conlon say this, and I'm just like, you are insane, man. I understand that you cover baseball for a living, but I really have to, wonder if you're actually paying attention to the games. How can you not
So you got upset with his opinion?
Yes, I did. I got upset
Okay.
with his opinion because I thought it was insane what he was saying. I thought it was so disrespectful. This is a guy who's pitched 7 no-hitters, leads all of Major League Baseball in strikeouts, and you're telling me you don't want him on the mound in Game 7 of the World Series? Do you know who comes the closest to him in no-hitters, Amie?
Who?
Sandy Koufax with 4. Nolan Ryan has almost doubled Sandy Koufax. And everybody talks about Sandy Koufax as being, I know there's a debate in terms of who is the greatest Dodger pitcher of all time. People will say Sandy Koufax. People will say Clayton Kershaw. If you look at the numbers, Kershaw has better numbers than Sandy Koufax. Now, the argument that you can make for Sandy Koufax is Sandy Koufax in the postseason was completely dominant, and Sandy Koufax's career was cut short because of his arm problems.
Mm-hmm.
If Sandy Koufax maybe pitched longer, would his numbers be, better than Kershaw's? But this
is that what if game, because what if he comes back and he's not as dominant after Tommy John surgery, if he had it at the time, and then what does that do to his legacy after the fact? Where it's like, I mean, I'm sure he wonders, but we'll never know.
And this is, I think, the other beautiful aspect of baseball. Numbers are really important in
Mhm.
baseball. Records are really important in baseball. So when you get to these achievements, this is what I love about it is when you get to these achievements, you get to talk about other great baseball players and you keep their legacies alive. You don't just forget because there's a lot of people who never saw Nolan Ryan pitch. But when you see Kershaw get to 3K, then you start having conversations about other left-handed pitchers that are in this club. Like hearing him talk glowingly about CC Sabathia, that surprised me because I thought, when you have Randy Johnson on that list, that he would spend the majority of his time glowingly talking about Randy Johnson. Steve Carlton was another lefty on there who's great, but he spent so much time talking about the respect and the admiration that he had for CC Sabathia, another Hall of Famer. And now you put in perspective, well, it's like, well, how good was CC Sabathia? Maybe CC Sabathia was a guy who didn't get his due, and you need to talk more about CC Sabathia. Hearing him talk about what he did when Sabathia was on with the Cerveceros and carrying that team to get into the playoffs. And maybe the reason why Kershaw had so much admiration for it is because that was Kershaw with the Dodgers every year. Kershaw had to do all these Herculean, feats just to get the Dodgers into the playoffs. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to just remind everybody, if you don't know who Nolan Ryan is, go on YouTube. You can see he was a freak of nature, and I just feel like he deserves a little more credit. People should talk more about Nolan Ryan.
I just laugh because the conversation that you just had, this monologue, is like the stuff you call me a nerd about, but that's like what we do at Saber meetings or in like conferences and stuff like that. Like this is everything that you just said. That is literally all we do is talk about
Yes,
stuff
but
like
I
that.
do it in front of the mirror. I do it in the
Oh,
car.
okay. So
Again,
not in a community of other baseball people who could actually appreciate it and maybe give you, the not give you the flores, but give that player the flores that you're looking for. Those conversations happen. I'm just saying. You
Amie,
might you might be a member.
I've told you this before. I like to. The reason why I talk to myself is because I like to surround myself with people that I find intellectually stimulating.
Mhm.
That's why I talk to myself. So,
And every time I have to wonder how much money I have to set aside to have my eyes surgically removed from the back of my head from rolling them
oh,
forward.
another eye roll, ladies and gentlemen.
Mhm. Yeah. Mhm.
Anything else on the White Sox series?
Mm, I mean, Freddie did hit that walk off, which I thought was apropos since he's been the one who's like counting down all that stuff for Kershaw.
Yeah,
Um,
right. Yeah.
I mean, I will say, like, Dustin May he had like probably one of the best outings so far this season. He took a no-hitter into the fifth. He pitched 7 innings, only on like 86 pitches. Like for him, with the struggles that he's been having, like what an outstanding game for him.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know a lot of people will say, "Well, it was against the Medias Blancas, Juan." I was
They're
like, "Look,
still baseball players.
I think I get it that it was against the Medias Blancas, but Dustin May needed that. I think the big issue with Dustin May is his inconsistency, and that inconsistency has to impact his confidence. So to have an outing like he had against the Medias Blancas, I think it does need to do. I think it does probably wonders for his confidence, and probably reminds him, "Hey, I'm a major leaguer. I belong in this level at this level and I can do this." Now again, you want to see the consistency. I want to take credit for this, Amie, because what did I say in our last
Of
episode?
course, you're going to take credit.
Didn't I say that Dustin May was going to be the first person demoted once everybody gets healthy? And then sure enough, Dustin May hears me say that, y se pone las pilas, and he almost throws a no-hitter.
I
Again,
I
you're
know you think this
welcome.
is funny. I
I
don't.
know
It's
you're welcome again.
no. I don't think it's funny, but that's fine. You have your little moment in the sun.
What else do you got?
Um, so I don't know if you heard the broadcast as he was pitching that game, but they were talking about like because they would keep flashing to Kershaw, and I think they were kind of jokingly saying like because he got 2 strikeouts in the first inning and he got his third strikeout in the second, they were like, "Do you think Kershaw's thinking about like, wow, he made that look really easy?"
Yes, yeah, I did watch the broadcast. I did hear that comment,
I
so
was like, "Oh, sick burn, guys! Like Kershaw did it. Like, let's give him his
exactly,
due.
exactly.
Like, let's not insult to injury." But I mean, I was really glad that they were able to come out of that. They were even saying like Freddie Freeman is starting to look more like himself, more like he's enjoying the game, maybe not so much like he's frustrated or potentially in pain dealing with, I think he had a quad issue, a hamstring. Like, him and Theo kind of have like similar stuff going on. And you know, when you're not feeling great, when you're not injured, like, I don't know about you, I like coming up the stairs to my apartment is a pain in the butt. I'm not having to go field stuff defensively or like go up to and take quality at bats while I'm not feeling well. And these guys are trotted out every single day with minimal days off. And I just like hats off to them for even playing in those conditions. I understand they're professionals and that's what they get paid for, but they are still humans. So the fact that he's kind of finding it just makes me really happy for him.
And I think that's why it's important to remind fans that the first question, the first comment should be when someone is struggling, it should always be, are they healthy, as opposed to, oh, this guy sucks. Because if
Or we should just never come with this guy sucks, period.
honestly, I think that quad issue that Federico was battling with, the issue at hand is, okay, if you're physically not right, you start overcompensating. Everything is out of whack. So obviously your mechanics then are going to get out of whack, which will impact your performance. And that's why I repeatedly have been asking the question, is Theo healthy? Because if he's not healthy, maybe his mechanics are out of whack and he just has not looked offensively consistently like the Theo that we saw last year. But it's very noticeable out in the outfield. There was
And just like we saw with Freddie, like you can tell that their demeanor is a little bit different. Their Teo's, you know, he's happy go lucky. Same thing with Freddie. Those guys, but that corner, the right side of the field, they are always smiling. So when you look over and they're just like they're very focused on the game, obviously again because they're professionals, but you're missing some of that like consistent like chipperness. Like you know something's going on, and I'm glad for when they can come out of that, but also like just hope that they're okay too, because like you said, it's the mechanics. Mookie Betts went through the same thing. He actually fracturing his toe let him step back from some of the bad habits that he started to create after he lost all that weight at the beginning of the season. He needed that reset. So maybe this is something that will give Teoscar that reset if he can just get a couple days off and then find whatever that tweak he needs to make is.
And Nando, one of our listeners, sent me a question. Not necessarily a question; it was more of a comment. I don't know necessarily if I agree with this, Nando, but Nando feels in terms of the Oscars' defensive issues. He feels like, well, that maybe now that the Oscars in right field, that maybe he's getting to more balls. Therefore, because he's getting to more balls, he's making more errors. And I'm just like, all that tells me, Nando, is that the Oscar is defensively just not that strong. And getting to more balls to me is not an excuse. Getting to more balls, and I think he will even tell you this. Any major leaguer will tell you this. How many times have you heard a major leaguer say, "If it hits my glove, I should have caught it"? So I don't. Whatever the reason, we won't know it. The Dodgers are coming out there saying he's healthy. He is their right fielder, but the eye test is just something I don't think any of the fans are ignoring. He just does not look right. He does not look. He doesn't even look comfortable out there in the outfield. I will
I
not
don't
say it's an effort issue. I don't know what it is, but there are some balls that he is not getting to, that he is blatantly just missing, and I don't know what it's about.
I think that's the we're not always gonna know, and we just know that these guys they put all of their, he's not doing anything halfway. So if there's something going on, like they'll figure it out. But that's not to say that him playing in right field doesn't have an impact. That's partially why we're seeing Mookie at shortstop. playing right field was starting to put some wear and tear on him. So who knows? Who knows what that's doing to Teoscar? Maybe he doesn't have as much wear and tear when he's in left field. That again, these are things we're not privy to. This is where like you can just dissect the game all you want if you want, and that makes you happy. Go for it. But I think in some of these cases, it's like I just want these guys to do well, and if he's having some off time, like I'm just gonna hold him up as much as I can. And I think he's a great player, and hopefully he turns it around. Because at the end of the day, much like we always talk about, we have no control over this stuff. And if he could play better, I'm sure he's the first person who's going to want to do that.
Yeah, and the Dodgers need him. And Brandy, just to answer your question about maybe getting Tucker in a trade deadline, I hate to disagree with you, Brandy. Tucker is not going to be available. The Cubs have one of the best records in the National League. The Cubs need Tucker. Tucker is going to play an instrumental part in their postseason run. So as much as I would love to have Kyle Tucker on the Dodgers, it's not going to happen. Anything else on the Medias Blancas series?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, we could probably mosey our way into the Astros series, where I will try to bring as much positivity as I can.
This is all you, Amie, because the homestand started off great, 3-0. You sweep the Medias Blancas. Coming into this Astros series, I knew that it was going to be a tall order. It was going to be difficult because the Astros had won 10 out of 12, just like the Dodgers. The Astros came in playing really good baseball. They were really hot. Amie, I don't know how much we can really add to getting swept. This reminded me a lot of when the Angelitos came into LA and swept the Dodgers. The Dodgers just did not look good at all in that series. In this series, I think there's two ways of looking at it. And so I want to get your perspective.
Oh, okay.
I want to get your perspective on this. One way of looking at it is, hey, they beat Kasperius, they beat Robleski, and they beat Klein because Emmett Sheehan pitched great. Those are the guys that they beat.
Well, that was going to be that was one of my points of positivity is they came in and saw our rookies. And if this is going to happen, because it's not the postseason, at the end of the day, they didn't get a better look at some of our other pitchers, which I'd prefer it that way. You watch the tape, but I don't want you facing them.
And that's why I want to get your perspective. This is why I'm saying there's one of two ways of looking at this. And that's who they beat. So they're not going to see those people in the postseason. So the Dodgers are fine. The Dodgers are fine. Okay, that's one way of looking.
I'm just going to say this before you get any deeper. The Dodgers are fine. Go on.
Okay. The second way of looking at it is...
Here we go.
Okay, I know we're expecting Blake Snell back. Tyler Glasnow is going to pitch on Wednesday. You're expecting all these healthy pitchers that are going to come back. And these are, especially with Blake Snell, these are your stars, right? So, yeah, go ahead.
Can we put a little asterisk on there that they're not going to necessarily be pitching fire right out the gate?
Oh, I noticed what you did there with the asterisk.
I was hoping. That's why you're my podcast partner.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, but the idea is by the time the postseason comes around that Blake Snell will be healthy and he'll be ready, right? But here's the other way of looking at it. What if that doesn't happen? There is still the I know everybody's expecting these guys to come back healthy.
I'm not expecting anything at this point.
But what if that doesn't happen, Amie, and you do go to the postseason and you do need to use Kasperius, Robleski, and Klein, guys that I mean, the Astros were just, that first game was rough. They were just really just hitting the ball all over the place, and they were hitting the ball hard. Amie, I guess I already know you feel like it's more scenario A, where you guys didn't beat anybody. You didn't see Yamamoto. You didn't see our best pitchers, and the Dodgers are fine.
I would take both A and B, but I would take B with not the Prince of Darkness side, where okay, so what? So let's say they don't come back. There's literally nothing the Dodgers, nothing the fans, nothing anybody can do about that. So you hope that Kasparius gets some rest. He's been doing a lot of like role shifting, and we don't know how that's impacting him. Robleski's coming up and down, so he doesn't have a lot of consistency. Sheehan literally just got back. So the hope is, if let's say those are the ones that do have to carry us down the way, they can stabilize a little bit more. But at the end of the day, whether we see them in the postseason, we don't see them in the postseason, like, we don't have control over that. So much like the Dodgers say in a lot of their scrums, like, we're just going to take it a game at a time. They didn't win this series, and I know that there were a lot of people disappointed, like, these are the people we need to beat in the postseason. Yeah, that's what the postseason's for. And you do want to win games here, but let's not forget that they just won the last 7 series. So, and a lot of those were against some of the higher leverage teams. They're going to drop games here and there. I know people don't want to hear that, oh, well, they're tired. They're professionals. They are tired, though. What they do is extraordinary. So, that's why they get a break at the All-Star break, and hopefully that'll carry them forward.
It's interesting. I mean, it's definitely a wake-up call when you play 12 games against teams that are under 500, and then all of a sudden,
A wake-up call, that would insinuate, though, that they don't know that this is happening, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so shocked this happened. Like, they're also not firing on all cylinders, and that's a factor, too. Maybe it all comes together, maybe it doesn't. Like, nobody has any control over this.
And that's fair. I think that's fair, but I think you also, and maybe it doesn't mean anything, but if you look at the season so far, they've lost the season series to the Cachorros of Chicago, a team that they may see in the postseason again. They got swept by the Astros, a team that if they're lucky, they'll see them again in the World Series. It seems like the really elite teams, the Dodgers have not had much success against. But you're right. What's happening now doesn't necessarily will correlate or translate to what happens in the postseason. One thing that really did stand out to me in this series against the Astros is I do feel they were outmanaged. And I say that especially hearing Ben Kasparius's post game interview, when he was talking that he needs to do better with his scouting reports. Now, Ben Kasparius was leaving the ball too much over the plate, and it just got hammered. But it really seemed like the Astros had wonderful scouting reports and were really prepared when facing Kasparius, when facing Robleski, especially, Robleski had been pitching really, really well. Now, I know you'll sit there and you'll say, well, Robleski really only had one bad inning. It was that bad inning that really hurt him. Kasparius was a different story. He was just getting rocked, but Kasparius, again, was showing signs of that in his last few starts with his ERA climbing. But you got to tip your hat to the Astros. I think they did a wonderful job of scouting those Dodger pitchers, and when those Dodger pitchers came in, it's going to lead me to something that I want to hold on, but I just wanted to point out there. I think you got to tip your hat to the Astros coaching staff. I think the Astros coaching staff did a really great job this series.
Okay.
All right. So now, okay, let me get you to, because you have.
I'll tip my hat.
All right. So now I got a lot of this weekend, so I want to get your thoughts on this.
Man, yeah, I feel my friend group is just a lot more mellow.
So, and I heard it both ways, so that's why, again, I want to get your opinion on this. I heard the Dodgers need to get over this Astros thing. It's in the past. There's only 2 players left. It was Altuve and McCullers. It's in the past. Let it go. They need to get over it. But then there were the other people who
never.
They were just like, exactly like you. No, they're never going to get over it. My question to you, Amie, is will Dodger fans ever get over this? And for me, I will say this.
Why do they have to? Why is the reason?
That's a good point. I agree with you. I feel the same way. But I also feel they're never going to get over it, because I don't know if you heard Oral Hershiser's comments, especially in that Friday game, that the Astros were swinging like they knew what was coming.
Oh, I heard him.
Oral Hershiser is an accomplished pitcher. He is entitled to make his opinion, give whatever opinion he has. I thought that comment was a little unfair because it completely disregarded the fact that Ben Kasparius was leaving pitches right over the middle and that the Astros were major league hitters. And if you do that, you're going to get punished. But it keeps feeding into the fact that the Astros are cheaters. They will always be cheaters. And so if you did want to get past this, I don't think it's ever going to happen because you constantly have people reminding, hey, this because look, there
But
was a
he's entitled to say that, and like he feels very strongly about it. I mean, he's never made it a secret because it didn't. And I agree in this respect. It did not just hurt the Dodgers that year. It hurt so many other players across the league that they played against that impacted their bonuses, the goals that they were trying to hit. Some of the people who didn't get re-signed based on how those matchups worked. Like it didn't. It rocked baseball, and it's not okay. And whether that's the case of what they were doing on, I mean, odds are that's probably not the case. We know that, but him making that comment, that I think that takes away the responsibility that we all have to think for ourselves. So that's just making it that, okay, well, if Oral says something that we're all just blindly following, there may be some of us that agreed with Oral. Maybe it did cross our minds like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Or there's going to be people maybe like you that are like, oh, that was for me, that was out of line. And I don't like that comment. But I think it's dangerous to say like, just because somebody's saying something like that, you're taking the onus off people to think for themselves and the responsibility in that respect.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. I just for me, especially when it comes to this conversation, I get it. The proof was out there. It was proven that the Astros cheated. Uh, I always like to tread on light ground around this topic only because I always like to remind Dodger fans of this, but they don't seem to either know that this is a storyline or are aware of it. But the Dodgers have been accused of cheating as well. And in 2018, they were accused of cheating by the Cerveceros, and especially in that playoff series. Now, there's a book, and the author, it was about the cheating scandal. It was about the Astros. The author's name escapes me. My apologies.
I have
But
the
if you
book on
read,
my shelf.
do you okay? Do you know?
I don't remember the name
Is
of it, but I have it.
Okay, so you've read that book, and to me, it really made me feel uncomfortable the number of times the Dodgers were mentioned in that book as cheating as well. However, they could never prove that the Dodgers were cheating. So this is the reason why I guess I'm a little sensitive to this kind of conversation just because I remember giving Barry Bonds such a hard time for being on steroids, and then Manny Ramirez comes to the Dodgers and he gets busted for steroids. And now I'm just like, well, I guess I just got to be just as hard on Manny Ramirez, right? Even though he's a Dodger. I'm just always afraid that it's going to come out that the Dodgers were cheating too. So at that point, if the Dodgers were cheating and I'm giving the Astros such a hard time, I have to give the same business to the Dodgers too, right?
I mean that follows. Yeah, I guess it's. I believe it was Evan Drellich's "Winning Fixes Everything."
No, that's not the one that I'm
Okay,
referring to. The
different one.
guy, he works for, he's New York media.
Hmm.
When I find the name, I will give it to you.
Okay,
It's a really good
there's
book.
a couple different
Yeah,
books. I know I bought them all at
it's a
one
really
time.
good book. But I did find it very interesting the fact that Altuve was getting booed left and right. Every time
Oh,
he came up to bat.
every time, and there were chants of cheaters while he was at bat. Was it Andy Martino
Yes, Andy
cheated?
Martino. Thank you very much.
The inside
Yes.
story of the Astros scandal.
That book, and I got to interview him. And again, it comes down to the bottom line is you can't prove it. I know Ben Verlander went on social media, kept saying, well, the Dodgers cheated too when he was defending his brother. And a lot of Dodger fans went after him and they were like, well, show us the proof, show us the proof. So clearly Ben Verlander has also heard the same things. So it's just I wish we could get past it. Honestly, Amy, I really could. I wish this wasn't a storyline, but I also get it at the same time. It really just does suck because I don't
I,
think the Astros should have cheated. They could have beaten the Dodgers without cheating
well,
because
and that's the thing. And I can't speak for everybody because I know, much like everything we talk about on this show, it's intensely personal how people feel about each of these things. For me, it comes down to what I mentioned and what Oral Hershiser has talked about, where it rocked people's careers, and that's not okay. Like, if we're just talking about sign stealing at second base, like we just saw the thing with Tyler Anderson, a month ago, having it out with the manager on the other side for stealing signs. To me, I'm just like, don't do it. Like, just, if you guys are playing on merit and skill, play on merit and skill. Like, why do we have to try to think up better ways to steal people's signs? You will have the argument that people will say, well, that's just part of the game, but it doesn't have to be. Just play on your skill. If you're good enough to hit the ball, then hit the ball. I just think that because there are so many factors to this, that everybody's going to have a different opinion. And for me, I understand that, Correa's on another team, Bregman's on another team, and Altuve's still there, and McCullers. I think it's shady, the fact that they got immunity and they never showed any like remorse. To me, that plays into it, because if you have somebody who's actively like, you know what, I really am kind of, we shouldn't have done it, but you haven't really heard that for the most part from the people that were really involved with it. And to me, that I think that factors in, and the fact that they got to keep their, basically, their trophy, their rings, whatever. When I if it's proven, you should be stripped of that. You didn't win.
I think all of that is fair what you just said, but I also think a lot of that is on Manfred.
100%. But and that's where I think we all come at this differently. If I'm a player, I mean, and maybe this is just how I come at things in life. If I didn't earn it, I don't want it. So if you gave me that ring and maybe I didn't even participate in the cheating, but I found out that my teammates did, and somehow I managed to be oblivious of it all, that doesn't mean what I think it meant, because we didn't win. We cheated an entire league out of a true championship. And to me, I didn't earn it.
Yeah, I agree. There should have been no champion that year.
No piece of metal winners.
No piece of medal winners that year. But
So,
look, Shohei looked really good in those 2 innings.
mhm.
I thought Emmett Sheehan looked great, and it looks like Emmett Sheehan is hopefully going to stay in the rotation for a while now. So I'm very
And
excited to see what he continues to look like.
Shohei struck out the side in that second inning. 21 pitches, like 3 strikeouts. Like, how, like, good for him to kind of build back up. He's kind of like the anti somebody coming back in, like the anti Walker Bueller, the anti injured list, like, return. Like, he's doing
Yeah.
a pretty good job.
And it's the first time we've also heard Dave Roberts said that the plan is to build him up to 5 to 6 innings by the end of the year. Max is and look, if you have Shohei pitching in the postseason and giving you 5 to 6 innings, I think that's exactly what the Dodgers want. And so, look, there was some good. It wasn't all bad. It was not a very good series. Of course,
It's not how you want to lose a series, and it's not the team you want to lose to. But like, at the end of the day, you can't change it. And this is why I love baseball. It's a metaphor for life. Sometimes you just get handed a crap sandwich, and it's what you do with it. It's what the Dodgers do with this going forward, with the injuries that they have, with people returning from injuries. It's how do they continue to show up on the field. For me, that is what's important. Do I want them to win games? Yes. The fact that they're still leading the league, they're still leading the National League. Like, a lot of those things factor in, and I think that's where context matters. Like, yeah, it sucks they dropped a series. It sucks that they got swept by the Astros, but they're still leading the league. So I think those are important things to remember. And just like random plays that happen too, like when Freddie had that strikeout, but he ran it out, they passed the ball, and he still made it to first base. To me, I was like, yes, this is why you always run it out, says I to, myself in the press box quietly. But it's those important things, like those facets of the game where these guys are professionals. They are doing some pretty cool stuff out there. Wisdom lost.
No. Look, they're going drink. It's a tough stretch. Like I said, the Astros are playing really well. They're going to go to play the Cerveceros, which is a team that's playing.
Darn,
You
it's on commercial right now. Tried to look over and see what the score was at.
You don't want to see the score. I'm just letting you know right now, and I'm very curious to see what happened there. But anything else that you want to add about this series with the Astros?
So we did get to see Ruiz. I will say, like, that net shot that he took, like that sac fly that he basically kind of robbed from Altuve. Obviously, a run did score, but like he took that run away from, or not the run, but like he ended his at bat because he caught it in foul territory, obviously. But like he like kind of leaped into that. You saw him try to like hold on to the net as he was going down, and he still made the catch. Thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much from him. Honestly,
No, and that's why you celebrate the cool moments.
Yeah. What else do you got?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, yeah. Dalton rushing. I mean, when he hit that double in the top of the second Sunday, that was his 10th RBI. So like for being up for such a short amount of time, like he's doing a pretty good job. And I get to interview him this weekend for an upcoming episode of Playing the Field. So that was pretty fun.
So make sure you guys are following Amie so you can check out that interview with Dalton Rushing. And to Brandy's question, look, Dalton Rushing is a backup catcher, and in Major League Baseball, especially with the season that Will Smith is having, you're just not going to see a lot of at bats for Dalton Rushing. He's your backup
Probably
catcher.
More towards the end of the season as Will Smith starts to slow down.
What would be really interesting is if Will Smith could play third base. If Will Smith could play third base, then you could probably see Dalton Rushing getting more time behind the plate.
That's a factor, yes.
But look, here's the thing. I don't know if this is just it's baseball. It happens. The ebbs and flows.
Did you just say that's baseball?
That's right.
Oh, wow.
Is it a coincidence that the Dodgers offense went into the crapper this weekend after Max Muncy got injured? We're going to find out. We're going to see because the offense did not look good. Some of your stars are a little inconsistent in the plate. So it's something to keep an eye on, but it also could be something that you've been saying for a while now, Amie. This team is tired. And maybe the All-Star break is coming at a right time. But it was just a rough series. So I am concerned with Muncy's bat going down offensively because all of a sudden the lineup doesn't look as long as it used to look. And so we'll see. We'll definitely see.
There was God, I'm trying to find where I stuck it, if it was a screenshot or I bookmarked it somewhere. But there was a player, they were talking about a different team. I'll have to find it. But just talking about the lack of cohesion when they got to that team, thinking that, I'm going to get to the clubhouse, but everybody kind of just did their own thing. And I think that factors in too. So you may have Max Muncy going down, we're going to try to, fill that offensive slot in as best we can. But I think it says something about the Dodgers that with all the injuries, with all the adversity they've faced so far this season, that they are still in the lead. And I think that speaks volumes to how they do pick each other up. So we are definitely going to miss his bat in the rotation. But you're still like, there are other teams that don't even have that. Like they're just very fractured. Everybody kind of does their own thing. There's not really a brotherhood there. So I think that's where the Dodgers do have an advantage, even though they are facing a lot of this adversity.
Well, hopefully they can stop the bleeding when they go to Milwaukee. Can we talk about the All-Stars? The All-Stars?
Yeah. Yes.
Or do you have more Astros stuff?
No. Go for it.
All right. How many All-Stars did the Dodgers get, Amie?
As of right now, 5. So they announced 3 on Wednesday. Well, kind of 2-ish because we already knew about Shohei. But Will Smith will be going for his 3rd time. Freddie Freeman will be going for his 9th time. And then Sunday, they announced the pitchers. So Clayton Kershaw got in on a legend pick. This will be his 11th All-Star game. They did make a point of saying that this is not charity; it's something that he's earned. And then Yoshinobu Yamamoto got his first nod, so this will be his first time going.
Look, for me, they got it right. I know there was this big to-do of the fact that, there was at one point in the top two, it was what, maybe 8 Dodgers were
Seven, I think.
was it?
7 or 8, something like that. Yeah.
So people were like, "Oh, you could literally just have the whole Dodgers lineup representing the National League," and be like, "Come on, let's pump the brakes." Look, the truth of the matter is, Truth of the matter is Mookie is not having a typical Mookie season. Therefore, I don't think he's worthy of making the All-Star game. So I think the Dodgers that did get selected, I think those are the ones that deserved it.
You are
Obviously,
hearing also about the snubs around the league
yeah,
as well.
obviously the conversation here takes a turn, and instead of celebrating those, okay, before we go into the snubs, I do want to say this. I think it is cool that Clayton Kershaw got this Legends thing. I do think that is cool that they do it. Clearly, I think they may think this might be Kershaw's last hurrah, and
Did you
that's
hear
why
the presser?
No, what did he say in the presser?
No, so they did a pregame presser, I think today, and it was one of those asked and answered. Like people kept trying to bring up, like, well, what does this mean for the end of the year? And he's like, guys, I'm just taking it a game at a time. And then people kept asking, and he's like, I'm focused on now. Like he's happy to get in that way, but he also said, like, I also don't, like, if they want me to pitch, I'll pitch, but I don't want to take a spot away from somebody else. So if it's literally is just me and my family going and being there, he's totally fine with that. If it doesn't take an opportunity away from somebody, he's open to pitching.
I completely agree with that. And if that's the case, I think that's great. It is just typically this is reserved for a player that's in its last year. If you look at it with Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera, that was the case with those two players. Now, those two players had already announced that they were retiring. So
he's not feeding into it. He's not like, he's actively like, he doesn't know what it holds for him after this year. So he's keeping the door open for right now.
And let's be honest, it's an exhibition game. So this should be about seeing the stars that you want to see, seeing the legends. I mean, there were points. I mean, I was a big fan of Cal Ripken Jr. There were points where he got voted in to start the All-Star game when he didn't necessarily deserve it. His numbers did not represent that, but the fans wanted to see Cal Ripken in the All-Star game.
And it's exactly what you said. It's an exhibition game. Like, it's fun to watch, and I am glad that every team is represented there, because what fun would it be if, like, your team didn't have somebody? I know we're talking about our spoil of riches here with five players already, and maybe a couple more on, that might get announced, but like there are some teams where, like, I was talking to somebody and they're like, well, did this team even get somebody yet? And it's like, yeah, they did, and they're disappointed with the person who got picked. And it's, we are very spoiled on our side, but for me, it's all about the home run derby. Like that's the thing I live for.
Yeah, I still can't get into the home run derby.
Really?
Like, if I'm there and someone puts it on, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it. I mean, we can spend time talking about it next week, but I will just, let's get over to the snubs, because there is one snub I think that we're going to spend a lot of time on. So before we spend time on that one, I do just want to point out another snub, and that's Suzuki with the Cubs.
I heard Suzuki. I heard Trey Turner. I heard Rafael Devers.
Yeah, but the big issue for me
and
is
I think Justin Turner also brought up Michael Busch.
So I think the big issue for me is this: the Andy Pages snub. Okay, Andy Pages is having a really good season, and I think you could argue, but you just mentioned. Now I get it, Suzuki.
We haven't even gotten to the elephant in the room.
What's the elephant in the room?
Juan Soto didn't get.
Okay, well, we're gonna tie all of this together.
Yeah, but I think Pages has had a really great season past that first month.
To me, the elephant in the room is Fernando Tatis. That is the elephant in the room. Why was Fernando Tatis selected to be a part of this team, this all-star team. If you compare Tatis's numbers to Andy Pages and to Juan Soto, both of those players have better numbers than Tatis. So if you want to be angry at anybody, guys, you got to look at Dave Roberts.
Well, is that also because other teams need to have representation?
Well,
Or
the Padres already had their representative. So
Okay.
it wasn't because Manny Machado's starting at third
That's true.
base.
He's third base. Yeah.
And they have a pitcher. Adam is making. So
The Dodger killer.
why did Dave Roberts feel the need to take Tatis? Now, one of the things that factors into this, we all know that the starters, it's fan based, right? But the players have a vote too.
The 9 position players are picked by fans. The 9 reserve and the 5 starting pitchers and the 3 relievers are picked by players.
So Juan Soto didn't get the support from players.
Mm-mm.
So that to me is the real. Now I can understand. Okay, that he's a recognizable name, right? He's an established player. Andy Pages, this is his first full season. I can understand some players not really being on. Andy Pages is not on their radar. But again, the numbers don't lie, right? If you look at the numbers, both Soto and Pages had better numbers than Tatis. What is this all about? Is this just plain jealousy, Amie? Is the players looking at Soto and the contract that he signed, which for me shouldn't be, because the more money he gets, the more money you're going to get on your deal because he's raising salaries. So I'm scratching my head. I really don't understand how Soto. Okay, you don't vote him in. Okay, I get it. He's not having a typical Juan Soto season, but Tatis over Soto, that's one that I can't make sense of it.
Yeah. Well, and this is where like you're probably not going to make sense out of it. I mean, at the end of the day, there's also only so many spots, so you don't know where the players were voting and how that broke out. Did Tatis win by like a small margin, or was it like,
So
was it a landslide?
all the reserves are voted by the players. The manager, Dave Roberts, doesn't have a say in any of that.
This is according to the article I read. I don't know, what research did you do?
No, that's I'm trying to get clarification on it.
Oh, no, the article I read said of the 32 spots, 9 position players are chosen by fans. The 9 reserve, 5 starting pitchers, and 3 relief pitchers are by players. And then the commissioner has the final 6 players, which usually break out into 4 pitchers, 2 position players.
So I take it back. Don't be mad at Dave Roberts, guys. This is not Dave's fault.
Oh, why did you think it was Dave Roberts' fault?
Because there was a time, because I'm an old timer, there was a time where the manager would pick the reserves. And so they would get, they would take the heat if you didn't why didn't you pick me to go on there? Because you would think if Dave Roberts was the one in charge of taking the reserves that he would take Andy Pages because he sees Andy Pages every day.
But even devil's advocate, maybe he doesn't because he's like, well, we already got 5. Like, we don't want everybody thinking I'm being a homer and playing favorites.
But there's been
you can argue
Dodgers have had like 6 or 7 all-stars.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. I think you're right. You're always going to have this argument because there's only a certain number of spots. There's always going to be snubs.
And there's always going to be people like, why didn't this player go? Like, well, because they didn't.
Yeah. And for me, if you're looking at the Dodgers, I think the right Dodgers that deserve to be there or on there, with the exception of Andy Pages. I think Andy Pages makes a really good argument that he deserved to have a spot there. But then again, you just mentioned a whole list of other players that were worthy of being on that team that aren't on that team, that are feeling the same way Andy Pages is feeling. So
well, and it's almost like when you see like the position players voted on by fans, like that's like who had the most motivated fan base, right? To get some
popularity contest.
Yeah. Right. And then the same thing, like we don't know what margin any of these players made it in by the player vote. Like I said, was it so slight like that it was spread out and like, it's me and you win by 5 votes and I lose out because I had 4. Like, was it so spread out that it was just like, oh, this is where the the glob of it was. We don't know. Well, never. I don't think they release player vote tallies, to my knowledge.
I don't think they released the tallies, but I did see that they were making the argument that, well, not making the argument, but having the conversation of, interesting that Soto didn't get the support from the players, and what is that all about? Anything else?
And who knows? Maybe when people were voting, they were like, "Oh, other people are going to vote him in. Like, I'm going to put my vote over here." I mean, you never know.
And the All-Star game is next Tuesday. Next Monday is the Home Run Derby, and this is
yes, yeah.
It's in Atlanta. So anything else on the All-Star game?
No, I'm excited for the Home Run Derby. Have they announced who's going to be in that yet?
Well,
I haven't. Honestly, I was so busy at the stadium this weekend that I was like kind of eating and breathing Dodger baseball. So I only saw what came up.
I do think one person, I believe earlier this morning, did throw his name in the hat. And let me see if
I'm looking to see that. Oh, they have.
So Ronald Acuna, the Bravos, Kyle Raleigh, who is leading the league in home runs, I believe, with the Marineros, James Wood of the Nationals, and Byron Buxton. Byron Buxton, I think that was the name who threw, as of Monday, threw his name in the hat. So far we have 4 participants.
Okay. All right. I can't wait to make up my bracket and follow and do all my nerd things.
So we're still probably waiting. The more names, well, definitely, because I
think.
I doubt they're just going to go with those 4. But so far,
they're like, it's the smallest home run derby in the history of the derby.
Because nobody wants to do it. Dale said he doesn't want to do it. Shohei said he didn't want to do it. So it may be, hey, nobody wants to do this, so we're just going to go with these 4.
They'll get some people. So,
anything else before we wrap things up?
I'm just making sure we covered everything. I think that's it. For those of you following the Women's Professional Baseball League, they're having their tryouts in August, and they've got about 600 people registered. So we should be seeing more information on that next year and how that shakes out. So yay, baseball.
That's right. Good deal. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. If you've been listening to us on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Give us a thumbs up. Leave us your comments. We love engaging with you. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Bluesky at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.